What is going on, IVE Warriors? It's your boy Edward V, and today we're going to talk about how to best use intermittent fasting for fat loss. This is kind of like a follow-up video to the video that I did about how Jeremy Ether was wrong about certain aspects of intermittent fasting. And because he tailors some of his content based off of that information, I'm going to go ahead and break down the exact points that he broke down and show exactly what you should do to optimize fat loss. Stay tuned. Okay guys, quickly before I start, jump ropes are still in stock, the Fledge fitness jump rope. If you're bored with the cardio that you're currently doing and you want to spice it up, have some fun with the Fledge fitness jump rope, you can't go wrong. Only $16.50, high quality aluminum handle with a swivel design for maximum speed. You can click the card on the top right and the link will be in the description below. Now let's move on to the video. Let's start off with number 1. Now, this question of how long should you fast for, there are a few variables when it comes to your lifestyle, depending on if you build muscle or if you just want to focus on losing body fat, or if you just want to create some sort of a discipline system for you. There are those open-ended kind of scenarios that would require your thought input to go ahead and create a systematic approach to intermittent fasting in terms of how long should you fast. However, with that being said, I want you to understand this. The longer you fast, the more fat mobilization will happen. And that's the benefit of fasting. It's not only because of the insulin, but it is because of the symphony of hormone triggers that happen. Things like norepinephrine is increased, the fight or flight hormone. Insulin is reduced to baseline. IGF-1 is increased. So all of these different hormonal triggers literally prime your body to focus on burning body fat over muscle tissue, for example, thus burning more fat per energy expenditure. So with that being said, the longer you hold the fast, the better it is for doing this process. So we've seen studies where 16-8 is effective, but then we've seen OMAD studies, which is 1 meal a day, where they give participants just 1 hour to eat throughout the 24-hour spectrum. And you see that there's more significant fat loss in that group than there is in the 16-8 group. But the 16-8 group versus the caloric restriction group had a better fat loss outcome. So yes, 16-8 is beneficial for you, but as you continue to fast for longer, you sustain those benefits during your fasting window. Plus, if it fits your comfort zone in terms of adherence, which is the most important, are you going to stick to this protocol? In terms of your work-life balance, going to the gym, whatever it is, if it works for you to do the 16-8, then stick to the 16-8. But if you could push it a little bit further, then you can go ahead and do that as well. Both are amazing for you. Just understand that the longer you hold the fast throughout the day, the better it will be for you in terms of body fat mobilization. Now let's move on to number 2. This is another point that requires your thought input. What is your actual goals? Are you trying to gain muscle? Are you just trying to burn body fat? High nutritious foods are always going to be the more prominent, more important things to eat. I do have a video of what I eat if you want to look into my specific macro breakdown, but just understand that your goals will determine what you should and should not eat. If you're trying to build muscle, obviously it's higher protein. If you want to be on the keto diet, obviously it's higher fats and lower carbs. Those things in and of itself really won't be affecting your intermittent fasting protocol. Your intermittent fasting protocol is just based on simply the fasting. It won't be affected because of the food. But of course, the more nutritious your foods are, the better it is for your body overall. Now let's go ahead and move on to the third point. How much should you eat? So there's a lot of people in the intermittent fasting community that say you can eat whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Eat, 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 eat. You're not going to gain weight because you're intermittent fasting. That is not true. Calories still matter. What intermittent fasting does is intermittent fasting mobilizes body fat as the energy expenditure, mobilizes body fat as what you're burning instead of burning muscle. You can see the 15 clinical trials that I mentioned in the past that show that fat-free mass, the lean mass, is protected while body fat is tackled. You still need to be at a caloric deficit to lose weight, and you still need to be at a caloric surplus to gain weight. So how much should you eat is dependent on what your goal is. Are you trying to lose body fat? Are you trying to gain muscle? If you're trying to lose body fat, then you should be at a caloric deficit. If you're trying to to gain muscle, then you should be at a caloric surplus. Understanding your calorie intake while utilizing intermittent fasting will be very, very beneficial for you. Now, I know that a lot of people can do intermittent fasting, and because of the small window, they don't actually gain any weight or they lose weight. Thus, it gives them the illusion that they don't have to count calories. But if they were to count those calories, they will see that they were at a caloric deficit. So you do have to count calories. But keep in mind that intermittent fasting makes it very, very easy to do this process because everything is compressed in a small window and you're eliminating snacking, which can account for a lot of calories, considering that snacking tends to be high caloric foods, high caloric simple carbs. Because you're eliminating that, you're actually keeping a wall up against that when you're fasting. That you can utilize the OMAD method. Another thing that you can do is the warrior diet, which is 20 hours of fasting and 4 hours of eating, which is kind of like a meet in the middle kind of situation where you can get a few meals in within that 4-hour window, but you can also be aggressive with how long you fast within that protocol. Those are the three best choices in my opinion. Anything less than 16-8, you're not going to be effective in the metabolic switchover where all these hormonal events happen that give you that benefit. And anything past 1 meal a day going into 2 days, there's actually diminishing returns when you go past that 48-hour mark. You can eat as many meals as you like, just make sure that it's within your eating window. And also make sure that your eating window and your eating range is consistent every single day. If you're an hour before, a few minutes before, or an hour late, or a few minutes late, it doesn't really matter. As long as you keep yourself within that range, you'll be seeing the benefits of intermittent fasting. Now let's go ahead and move on to the final one, number 5. When to train. Now this is the point of contention for a lot of people, especially those that talk about intermittent fasting, those that don't talk about intermittent fasting, or those that don't care for intermittent fasting, or those that talk against intermittent fasting. These are where there's a point of contention. But when you do intermittent fasting and you go into a fasted training, yes, you have the ability to enhance fat mobilization, but this is in conjunction with your intermittent fasting protocol. So simply overnight fasting won't give you enough time to do that metabolic switchover. And because you don't have enough time to do the metabolic switchover, you won't see those benefits over time. But if you're fasting throughout the day, you go to sleep, you're fasted, you wake up still fasted, and then you go to the gym, because that time frame of how long you've been fasting, you will see benefits there. Also, there are some people that find it harder for them to do fasted training. Keep in mind that this is something that you can get used to, but if you must eat before your training, you find it impossible and you want to eat, you can go ahead and create a fasting schedule around your exercise program. Just keep in mind that studies have been done explaining the anabolic window. There really isn't a 1 hour, 30 minute, 40 minute anabolic window. There's more like a 6, 7, 8 hour window where you can actually eat before or after your workout. And as long as it's within a 6-hour range, you will still have muscle sensitivity to protein. So you don't have to eat exactly right after your exercise, and you don't have to eat exactly right before your exercise. Within those 6, 7 hours, you should be fine. There are also studies that show that your muscle stimulation after a workout can last up to 48 hours. Obviously, at the 48-hour mark, it is much more diminished than after the 24-hour mark, but the range is much broader than what you actually think. Just keep in mind, if you take a drink or a smoothie or some type of protein shake right before working out just to get that in, and you're thinking that that's not breaking your fast, it is breaking your fast. Also, just keep in mind, very low calorie items such as coffee, seltzer water, those things can be consumed during your fast. And if you want a further, more detailed breakdown on what you can consume during your fast, I have this video right here that you can go ahead and take a look at. So I hope this cleared a few things on how to best use intermittent fasting for fat loss. And of course, I want to thank my patrons for my Patreon, and I'm going to put their names right up here.